Get her.
This doesn't have to be a scene.
It really, really does.
I'd like to remind you all that I'm doing this in heels.
What was your name?
Cruella.
You did a Random Roles interview with my colleague Mara last fall and talked about just your whole career. But we talked a little bit about Cruella in that. And of course, at the time, you couldn't say too much, but you did hint at the fact that you work a lot with Emma and what Emma Thompson and Emma Stone, but Emma Thompson and what a joy she is to work with. So yes. What can you tell me about Emma and your time with her on set?
Emma is just great fun. You know, all that fun that you see that comes through in her performances is her. She's just got funny bones, but she's also a really lovely person. You know, she cares about people. She's quite generous, quite thoughtful, you know, just really great to be on set with. And you know, she'll make sure that she's got something to say to everybody, no matter what they're doing on set. You know, she just takes the time. And I think it's a genuine thing. You know, she's just a wonderful person to be around. So to be on set, you know, and you have more downtime than you do time on camera, to be honest. So that's who you're hanging around with, chatting with. I couldn't think of a better person to spend my downtime with.
So John, the valet, is in the background for a lot of this movie, which I guess, you know, that is kind of as a good valet should be. That they're kind of there, but maybe not always center of attention. I'm curious, what would you say his agenda is? And also, how does he end up working with the Baroness in the first place?
Well, I think, you know, he starts as the concept of the British valet, you know, the butler is something that we all understand and have grown up with. So I think he must take a job with her. She's aristocracy. So he's obviously coming from an agency that's very high up, but they've become very close and they're totally interlinked because, as you'll find out in the movie, or audiences will find out, she asks him to do something, which is, it's a very personal, very tricky thing. Yet he decides to stay with her. He's with her the whole time. I think he knows all her secrets and he plays them very close to her chest. And probably the Baroness is keeping him close because precisely that, he knows all of her stuff. But traditionally, you know, butlers are very discreet, so she can trust him. I think he's just staying with her because, you know, he knows her really well and out of loyalty more than anything.
Yeah, he's good at his job.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm curious, you know, I think you would maybe be, at least in terms of the main characters, you're one of the cast members that maybe has an idea of what London was like in the late 70s. You were there. So I'm curious what your take is on how did the film handle that? Did they depict it well? Did they bring it to life, late 70s London?
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant because usually those things are overdone. You know, whenever you go back to a sort of period, whether it's the say, punky period or you know, the 70s or even the 60s, people will really go for it. You know what I mean? The wigs are too big or the stilettos are too pointy. I think I think Craig's kind of just nailed it. And the set designer and Jenny Bevan, the costume woman, they've just done a really brilliant job at recreating it, giving it enough flavor that it makes it sort of exotic and interesting. But without overdoing it. And that's always the problem, I think, when you do period stuff. So yeah, it felt pretty real to me. I mean, within the context of a kind of heightened movie, but it was fun. And the music, of course, just the soundtrack is a kicking soundtrack and it just does all the work.
You said the phrase punky period. And I mean, that's a good way to put it. I mean, where were you specifically at this time? Were you into that scene? Were you into the punk scene?
Yeah. That came along when I was a teenager. You know, in 77, I saw the Sex Pistols on Top of the Pops, which was our TV show, and a chair got thrown, and it felt like, you know, a riot was going on. Looking back, obviously, it's just them mucking about. But yeah, that came exactly at my time. So I know that whole period.
I wanted to mention when 101 Dalmatians, I think, you know, the live action one that I grew up with came out, especially, there was this sort of boom in Dalmatian purchases. Like people were like, I want a Dalmatian for myself, which I think is kind of a funny detail. But if Cruella inspires a similar boom, what do you hope people would go out and buy because of this movie?
Yeah, I don't know if it's Dalmatians, to be honest.
Yeah,
because people,
maybe not.
You know, a dog is for life, as they say. I just got a dog a couple of years ago, and having not wanted a dog all my life and vehemently being very anti, they get under your skin. And now, obviously, I'm in love with her. But what would they take away? I don't know what they'd go out and get from the movie, but what I hope they what it does is that it encourages people to go back into the cinema and realize that there are some films that just need to be seen on the big screen. You know, you cannot watch this film on your phone or your computer or even your television screen at home. It really needs to be on the big screen because the sequences are so huge, you know, the ballroom sequences, the dresses, like I said, the soundtrack. It's just such a big movie. It's a movie, you know what I mean? And it needs to be seen on a big screen. So I hope that encourages people back into the cinema.
Well, now I want to go down a tangent about your dog, since you brought up your dog. Tell me more about him or her, and how did they help you get through this last year?
I got her just before the lockdown. We got her in the August, and I think we were locked down then in the March. So she's not a lockdown puppy, but she's just coming up for 2. She's a miniature schnauzer. And yes, there's something about dogs, isn't it? They're so happy to see you in the mornings, and no matter what mood you're in, they always cheer you up. And she's great company. You know, my son said they would look after her. They don't lift a finger, so I'm basically
all you.
I'm basically the dog handler, myself and my wife. Yeah.
And I choose me. Don't worry, there's lots more bad things coming.
Perhaps.